Hello, I'm Tom Brooks and welcome to Thanet Writers investigates children in war. The way a child perceives war and how it affects them is something that is very difficult to imagine. To help any writers that are working on stories set during wartime, whether that's historical, fantasy, science fiction or something else entirely, I've come to speak to Irene to find out how growing up during the Second World War affected her. So Irene, how old were you when the war started?
Well, I was almost 10.
Were you aware of what was happening and what being at war meant?
Well, not at first. We thought it was quite a game because everything changed. We started having ration books and identity cards, and you carried them everywhere, the identity cards, and you got stopped very often to see that you got them, and your gas mask.
So how did being in that situation affect you as a child?
It was annoying. But you had to do it, so you got used to it in the end. But, you know, it was annoying.
And do you have any memories that have stuck with you during that time?
We used to watch the Dogfights, and once or twice we had the tracer bullets come down and you had to jump out the way. And we had a German soldier come over. He was quite low in his plane. He knew he was coming down, and we were out playing, and he went like that to us, and he was only a young chap, just like our brothers.
Right.
You know, and he went like that, saluted us, and he went across the fields, and we stupid like, we went and followed it. And when we got to where he'd come down, he was in pieces.
Right.
His head was still in his helmet.
Right.
But you know, that's not, and I think that's when it began to hit you. It wasn't a game.
Yeah.
But you know,
Did it become quite frightening for you then?
it did at first. You thought to yourself, well, why did we bother to follow it? You know, but and then I think we got a bit hard because we had shelters up our road. And very often you could find a dead body in there in the morning, and you used to have to get to the policeman that was nearly always on patrol, or somebody was. And then the house near us, great big house, that got bombed, and it was completely flat.
Right.
And next to the big house was a little petrol station.
Right.
That was for one of the local shops. They had a string of them, and that used to supply. So when the air raids went, we used to go to Knoll Park.
Okay.
Because there was a garden by us, and we could go down through the park and get into it's allotments. We used to go through the allotments and get into Knoll Park, and that was our shelter.
Okay.
Till that started getting a couple of bombs. But we still used it. But we managed on food because we used to help the farmers. After school, especially hay time, they used to come and collect us and take us back to their farm, and we used to help doing they didn't do them in bundles like they do now. They did them in tripods, and you had to take 3 and make them stand up like a wigwam, and that was hard till you got used to it.
So during a situation when the lights went dark and the sirens were on, what did you do in that situation?
Well, we got a bit frightened, but then we all rallied round each other, and we rolled up our little blanket and got ready to go down to the park. And then we watched all the bombing going on. We did have a few near misses of the bombing, but we managed.
That's wonderful, and obviously having company during that time was especially important.
Yes, yeah. And it's funny how the neighbours all click in
Mm.
and help each other. We had one neighbour, she had chicken,
Mm-hmm.
and we used to dig up our gardens and pick up the worms, take them in a little bucket round to this neighbour with the worms for her chicken, and we used to get half a dozen eggs now
Oh,
again.
very nice too.
So, yeah, but as the school lost their big playing field because we dug it up,
Right.
and we had an allotment. We had one down going to the park and one in the school field, and we was only kids, but we learned how to do it and how to grow our vegetables. And all the peelings we used to save, and the farmer used to come round and collect them for his animals. And at acorn time, we used to collect all the acorns for the pigs. And, you know, the farmer used to come and collect them.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
But you mentioned that you had brothers. Were they older brothers?
Yes.
And were they...
I had 3 older brothers. They all went in the army. One of my brothers, which I absolutely adored, he was a stretcher bearer.
Right.
And he was one of the first ones that went into Belsen.
Wow, okay.
And he came home and he was having nightmares. He wouldn't tell us why. And we had to nail all the bedroom windows up because he kept trying to jump out.
Right, okay.
And he died quite early.
Did it affect your relationship at all with your family when you knew that they were going to war and putting themselves in danger?
No, we didn't realise at the time until we started getting letters. And my brother, the stretcher bearer, he said they didn't just pick up the English, they picked up whoever was needing it. And he said this one German chap was, you know, quite bad. And my brother went up to him and said, "They've had a smoke, mate." He said, "I haven't got any cigarettes." And he said, "Oh, you can have my packet." And the chap gave him, he said, "I've got no money to pay you." He said, "I don't want paying." And he gave him his cheroot case.
Wow.
One of my uncles gave me a necklace, and I took it to an antique dealer because I didn't know what it was made of. And it was made of bones.
Wow, okay.
Yes, from one of the camps. But my mother was, I mean, she had a lot of children to look after at the time, you know, coming and going. And she was called up to do night ARP.
Okay.
And she was a night one. So, because there was always one of me, us or my sister, to look after the rest of the family. And she used to go to the top of the road, and it was a bakery.
Okay.
And they made the bread there, so she was in a nice warm, wasn't she? But she still did her work.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So how has the experience of being in the war during that time affected you since?
Well, you do have flashbacks, funny enough, even after all this time, and you remember something. I mean, I started work when I was 14, and the war was still on. And I went to work one morning, and the owner said, "Oh, I've got a job for you." And he shoved me in the window. He said, "Now up that ladder." It's a good job, I don't mind ladders. And he said, "Hold that window in." And it was a plate glass window.
Right.
And the bombing overnight had made it come loose.
Right.
And I was up this ladder for half an hour, holding this plate glass window in.
Aching arms.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, the funny looks and, you know, what's the name, especially when the young men went by. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Well, Irene, thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us.
You're welcome.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Good.
Thank you. As you can see, war not only affects children when they live through it, but continues to do so for the rest of their lifetime. I hope this investigation will be useful to your future writing. Thank you to Irene for taking the time to chat to us. I'm Tom Brooks, and on behalf of Thanet Writers, I'll see you next time.